Hi, boys and girls. We are going to be learning about graphing today. I'm excited. This is something new, and I love graphs because they're easy to look at and be able to compare data. So let's take a look at our objective today. Mathematicians can identify what a graph is and why we use them. Well, graphing is really important because we're going to use them a lot in our lives. Lots of people use graphs. Scientists use graphs, architects use graphs, doctors use graphs, educators use graphs. Graphs are all around us. Even if you're watching the weather, you might see the meteorologist put up a graph to show the differences from day to day. So we see graphs all around us, so it's important that we are able to see, to be able to read them visually. So, graphs do an amazing job at visually representing data so that it's easy to compare categories, to compare 2 or 3 or 4 different things. And we're going to take a closer look at that. So, the first type of graph is the horizontal bar graph. Well, an easy way to remember that this is a bar graph is because the data is represented in bars. Now, it's called a horizontal bar graph because it's going from left to right, from side to side. That is horizontal. So that is why it's called a horizontal bar graph. Now, I want to make sure that everybody understands the vocabulary words. So let's take a look at those and the horizontal bar graph and see where we can find each of these vocabulary words. So the first one is the title. The title is just telling you what the graph represents. So the title here, and it's usually always at the top, silverware in my kitchen. So this is telling us that this is talking about silverware in the kitchen and comparing how many of each we have. The scale for this graph is down at the bottom, and it is counting up by ones. Labels. The labels are the different things that we're comparing. So we're comparing forks, spoons, and knives. The key. Not every graph has a key, but I drew one here to kind of show you what it looks like. It's also called a legend sometimes, and the key just gives you information on how to read the data in a graph, okay? So for example, I put orange represents forks. So I know this represents forks even if this label wasn't here. I know blue represents spoons even if this label wasn't here. I know that pink represents knives even if this label wasn't here. So I would be able to visually read this graph. So the next word is compare. And that just means we can easily compare the data by looking at this graph. For example, if I were to say, how many more forks do I have than spoons in my kitchen? Well, I could easily look at this graph and go, okay, I have 14 forks and I have 13, or is it, I'm sorry, my 12, I think it's 12. I didn't perfectly line this up. I should have used a ruler. So I have 14 forks and 12 spoons. So I can easily see that I have 2 more forks than I do spoons. You can also answer other questions like, what did I have the most of in my kitchen? Forks. What did I have the least of in my kitchen? Knives. So it's an easy way just to look at this and be able to see what it represents. Let's take a look at our second graph. Our second graph is a vertical bar graph. So again, it's called a bar graph because the data is represented in bars. It's called a vertical bar graph because it goes up and down. That's vertical. Horizontal is side to side. So here's our vertical bar graph. Let's look at our vocabulary words. We have our title, my types of toys. We're comparing toys. We have our scale. Now the scale is different on this one. You want to make sure you catch it. It's counting by twos, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So it's counting by twos, so you want to make sure you look at that when you're seeing how many of each you have. Labels. Labels are the different categories that we are going to be going over. So we have stuffed animals, puzzles, video games, and action figures. Those are our categories that we're going to be comparing, I should say. So, and this all is our data, okay? Data is just a big fancy word for the information that we're seeing on the graph, okay? The question that's being answered on the title, okay? All right, I think I went through all of those. So if you were to look here and see, okay, how many puzzles do I have? Well, if I look here, I notice that my bar goes between the 8 and the 10. So it's not 10 and it's not 8. It comes between the 8 and the 10. So what number comes between 8 and 10? Hopefully you said 9. But again, it's easy to see what we have the most of, what we have the least of. It's easy for us to be able to compare the types of toys that we have. All right, let's look here at our picture graph. And our picture graph is called a picture graph because the data is represented not in bars, but in pictures. And I'm glad that they picked an easy picture because I'm not the best artist, but I tried my best. So the title is Different Leaves in My Yard. The scale is different in the picture graph. It is the picture of a leaf. That is the scale. That's what's telling us how many we have of each. The labels are right here. And let's take a look at the labels are showing us the categories. Magnolia, oak, maple, and elm. Those are the different leaves that we're comparing. Again, oh, actually this one does have a key. This is our key. It's telling us that the leaves are worth 1. And the reason why it's telling you that is because sometimes the picture can be worth 2. Sometimes a picture can be worth 3. So it's really important that if there's a key or a legend, you look at it to see what it's telling you about how to read the graph. So, I always want to make sure I'm going over all the vocabulary words, so that's what I was doing. So if we look here, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3 magnolia leaves. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 oak leaves, 1 maple, and 2 elm. Now, if this was worth 2, if I were counting these, I'd have to count by 2s. 2, 4, 6. But it only represents 1, so we only have to count by 1s for that. So you can easily see that the oak has the most leaves, or we found the most oak leaves because that is the furthest one to go horizontal. Okay. All right, let's look at our last. Thank you for hanging in. I know this is a lot of information. Let's look at this last graph. It's called a tally chart. And let's take a look at our title. The title should sound familiar. Silverware in my kitchen. Yes, it's the same thing, but it's shown or represented in a different way. So here we go. We have our labels, which represent our categories that we're comparing. The scale is the tally marks. That is our scale. And we don't have a key for this one. So if there's no key, we know that they're each worth 1. So, excuse me. If we look at this, we can tell that we have, this represents 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, shut the door, 5. So 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And if we look up here at forks, we see that we have 14. It's just shown in a different way. Let's look at spoons. 5, 10, 11, 12. Spoons is 12. And knife, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if we look up here, we have 9. So it's the same information, it's just shown in a little bit of a different way. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for you to see the different types of graphs. Now, let's, I want to do an example with you because I know in your work you need to, let me see, I want to make sure that I get this right. You need to create a tally chart using the data in the My Types of Toys bar graph in your packet. So My Type of Toys, you need to look at this information and you need to turn it into a tally chart. So I'm going to show you an example with information that I collected. So students' favorite lunch food, and I just realized I say so a lot. I apologized. I never realized how much I said that until I started videotaping my lessons. I almost said it again. I see that students' favorite lunch food, hot dogs, 9 students said hot dogs. 12 students said nachos, 2 said salad, and 10 said cheese sticks. So if I want to draw a tally chart for this, first I want to put my title, which would be this. So I already have it up here, but I should put it above the graph. So students' favorite lunch food. So hot dogs is 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, shut the door, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nachos, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Salad, 2. Cheese sticks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this is our tally chart that represents this data. And you can easily see that hot dogs have, or actually, I apologize for that one. Hot dogs do not have the most. Nachos have the most. So I should have done a better job at keeping these tally marks closer so that you could easily see that this had the most. So it's important that you go through each one and count them just in case maybe you did what Miss Bishop did and didn't draw them closer together. So I know by looking at this, I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5, 10, 11, 12, 2, 5, 10. So I hope this was helpful for you. Have a great rest of your learning day. Bye-bye.